Welcome, everybody. This is Alan Gallegos here with the Boise Beat on the Playbook. Today we're going to be talking NBA basketball. Let's go. Per usual, I got two of my favorite guests here with me today. My boy Chris Webb, aka Buttagoon, and my pops, Alan Sr.
Hey.
Boys, welcome back. Let's jump right into it. We're post All-Star game. Things are starting to shape up here in the playoff picture. You know, we got a few months to go, but things are going to start getting real intense here soon. I mean, I want to talk about Lakers and Warriors, who are at the bottom of the Western Conference right now. You got two of the best players in the game for the last decade sitting at the bottom. And I want to get your guys' opinion on if this is the end or if we're going to see them make a little comeback from the dead like we just saw Patty Mahomes in the playoffs here. Chris, I'll start with you. Tell me about the Warriors.
Honestly, man, as of right now, it's just seeming like it's the Steph show. And I get Clay came off the bench, had a great career night, Draymond's still doing his thing, punching people, kicking people, doing his thing. But unless they can get someone to help, I don't see them doing a 2022 Warriors run again when they beat off. Pause. When they beat the Celtics. Because I just don't think they have enough firepower. Like, they had Poole they could rely on. I don't know if those guys over there can do it right now.
No, for sure. And things are getting a little shaky for them. I mean, time's starting to run out. You know, they're not really pulling it together. Clay obviously frustrated having to come off the bench. Pops, what do you think about the Lakers right now?
The Lakers? Oh, well, they're starting to play a little better. I mean, they think they got a chance, and all they got to do is sneak into the playoffs. Right now, they're in the play-in, so I don't know. If they go as LeBron goes, if he stays healthy and goes, I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they'll go anywhere, although they are playing a lot better right now. Just like the Warriors. Warriors won 8 out of 10. So they're one of the hottest teams in the league. So I think both those teams, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but the play-in playoffs, they have to play the play-in games to get in. And then you just never know with those guys, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, all it takes is getting hot at the right time, as we were talking for NFL playoffs. But, I mean, you got the vets in the locker room. I mean, you got the right core guys. But the question is, do they have the role players around them to really complete the team?
Yeah.
I mean, AD, it's questions with health as well. Can't ever stay healthy.
He's a accident-prone player, dude, always. I don't think he's ever played a full 82.
No, and you know all about that, you being a Pelicans fan, huh?
I do. Get him out of here, dude. That's all, folks.
No, and I actually want to talk to you about your Pels. 6th seed right now. I see right now 6 games back from first, but starting to play a lot better after a slow start. Zion semi-healthy, staying under 300 pounds as far as I know.
Okay.
barely
good
300.
Under 300.
It is.
No, I mean, yeah, they're looking a lot better. I will say the last 3 games they played, they won them, but they won ugly. So I don't know. I mean, hey, that could be a good thing. Like, hey, any win's a win. You know what I mean? Whatever it needs to be done to win, that's, what we have to do. So it was a good, it's good to see them win in different ways. That's the main thing, man, is we just got to stay healthy. CJ kind of said it earlier throughout the week. That if the Pels stay healthy, man, there's not a lot of teams that match up well. There's only a couple. So who knows, get us hot, get us healthy. You might see us.
Yeah.
You might see us.
And last year, they looked like they were trying to make a run and waiting on Zion to get back, and Zion got cleared to play, and there was that big controversy there where he was technically cleared, they say, and he didn't want to come back unless there was a Game 7, and they ended up getting a Game 7 because he wasn't there. So,
that was a weird situation. But I think that they go as Zion goes. I think if he stays healthy, they got a chance. They got a real chance. But if he's not healthy and he's not into it, I don't know. They're just another team.
That's the thing too. Like with the playoffs, if Zion can get in, that'd be the first time we see him in the playoffs. He's typically hurt around this time of the year. Brandon Ingram, absolute dog, shows that he can be that guy in the playoffs. We've only seen him one time, but those 6 games he played against the Suns that year, he looked good, man. He looked really good. So, I think he has that kind of playoff caliber play. I think he can do well. So, yeah, it's all about just getting Zion in there and seeing what he's got. So, hopefully,
for sure. Zion's a generational talent, and it's so unfortunate that we really haven't even got to see the best of him due to him not being able to stay healthy. And I know he gets a lot of hate for his weight and whatnot, but I think it comes from a good place where people just want to see the best of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because if he is healthy, if he can take care of himself and take it serious, like, who knows how good the guy can be. He could carry them pretty far. He could be the next big-time superstar in the league. That's what everyone was always expecting when he came in. So it really just depends on his health and him staying in shape. If only we could give some of his weight to Brandon Ingram. That guy needs it, man. He's a skeleton out there.
Slim Reaper, dude. Slim
he
Reaper,
is.
just like KD.
Yeah, but Brandon Ingram really has been coming on too the last few years, and they're saying that come contract time in the offseason, Pelicans might be having to choose between them two. Who would you be taking in that situation?
It's every time I think about it, I obviously, like, the quick answer is like, well, when Zion's healthy, he's putting up like Shaq like numbers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. I'm a BI guy. Something about his game. He's really increased his assists per game. He's looking a lot better defensively, and his mid-range stroke is so good. His difficult shots are not difficult for him. You know what I mean? So, and he's been there. You know what I mean? He's been the healthy one out of the two. So
and you're talking,
I know
you're talking Brandon Ingram, correct?
Yeah, Brandon Ingram and Zion.
Has he made an All-Star team yet?
He made one. I think he got jibbed this year. I get it's always like, who would you take out? And then you're like, probably nobody.
Yeah.
To replace him. But he even said it. He's like, it's crazy how I didn't get a All-Star vote, or All-Star, selection, but everybody sends doubles my way. So, he is getting the respect. He is an All-Star caliber player. He just plays in a tiny ass market with no love.
Yeah. So, it's a popularity contest, man.
Yeah, 100%. So, and after what we saw that All-Star weekend,
not missing anything.
Yeah.
Who wants to play in that, really? Honestly, they should probably get rid of it. But let's see. We got our first question right here. Do you guys think Denver will repeat? Let's start with you, Pops. What do you think?
Oh, I think they got a really good chance. They got a good team. As long as they stay healthy, too. Keep Murray healthy. They got a really good chance. I don't think they're quite as good as they were last year, but I think it'll be between them and the Celtics, and that's going to be a heck of a series. I think home court might decide that one. Whoever has home court.
Yeah, and I think
Denver definitely has a chance.
I think that's huge, yeah, because Denver is one of the most complete teams in the league. You got the MVP, of course, Jokic, a guy that has no business just freaking dominating in the NBA every single night, and he does. He can do it all. Care. Yeah, he don't even care, dude. He just wants to go home to his horses. That's all he wants to do. But having Jokic, and as long as they can have everybody else healthy, they proved last year that they got all the talent that they need, and they play so well together. One of the best coaches in the league with Malone. I think they got as good a shot as anybody to win it this year.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they didn't have a whole lot of turnover. I think they just lost old Bruce Brown. He was a key part for them, but I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say he's a key part, so we'll see how that affects him in the playoffs. But like 3 games back, doesn't seem so far that it's the hugest hole. So yeah.
They're right
Yeah,
there. They're right there.
Hmm.
Celtics are kind of running away with it in the East,
They are.
yeah, but
Cleveland's getting hot, and ever since Milwaukee made that mistake of firing their coach and hiring Doc Rivers on, they've gone 3-7 since then. They were like 30-13 before then. They've almost lost about half as many games already in the last 10 games as they lost the first 43 games.
yeah, a lot of Doc slander the last few weeks or so since that hiring. A lot of people
That's a
starting
couple
to.
hours, dude.
A lot of people are saying
Yeah.
Doc's really not that guy, and he was known. His reputation was just as of a few years ago. He's one of the best coaches ever, and now all of a sudden, he's been looked at in a very different light. It comes to the stacked Bucks team, and they're reeling, man. They're reeling bad right now.
Well, it's so hard to go to a team in the middle of the year, and trying to change your culture. And
Hmm.
I feel for him, man. That was kind of a crazy risk that they did. I mean, Cleveland did it back in the day. They fired
David
Blatt,
Blatt, yeah,
David Blatt. We had a 40-12 record, something like that. But the coach that replaced him was already on staff. He already knew
yeah,
the system. He already had everybody, Tyronn Lue, and they went on to win the championship. But bringing somebody that's not even been there in the middle of the year, trying to change everything in the middle of the year, that's not a recipe. That's a recipe for disaster instead of success.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and to the OG's point, I mean, I think they fired their old coach because they said it was like they lost, the he lost control of the locker room and control of the team or whatever. So it's like you already lost control, so you're just gonna bring in a new guy who has no control. Wasn't a coach this season; he was broadcasting.
Hmm.
So it's just like, yeah, it was a crazy situation. And like now, I mean, they come out and almost after every loss, Doc saying something about how,
Or did it?
yeah, like the players aren't here, man. Like
Yeah,
it's hard right now. Like it's hard. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know what they were expecting with that move, but clearly it didn't go the way that they thought.
Well, that's
yeah,
their third coach in 1 year.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
you
news
look
broke
at it.
today. The news broke today. Doc was saying apparently he told the people that hired him, like, I just don't understand why you're doing this.
Yeah.
He told the people that hired him, I just don't understand. What are we doing here?
Hey,
But
but
I
pay me
mean,
all that money and I'll do it.
yeah, screw it. Pay me
I
that
mean,
much money, I'd go do it too.
right now they're paying three coaches. They're still
Hmm.
paying the coach they fired last year, and then
Oh,
of course
Budenholzer.
yeah, Budenholzer. They're still paying him, and then they're paying the coach they had earlier this year. What was his name?
It was a
Oh,
guy they
I
had on staff. He didn't really have a huge name yet.
Yeah,
oh,
and then now Doc, they're paying him some big bucks.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
there's a lot of similarities with this situation with the one that you brought up earlier, the Cavs one where the GM LeBron got David Blatt fired, and they brought in Tyronn Lue because a lot of people are kind of coming at Giannis for
same way.
yeah, because they're saying he's the one who got their coach fired. It was Adrian Griffin, that was his name,
Yeah,
yeah,
Adrian
yeah, yeah.
Griffin. But I mean, and Giannis comes out and says he's like, I had no idea this was happening. I'm just as shocked as you are. But it's like, dude, a small market
yeah,
like Milwaukee, like you basically run the team. You're telling me they didn't run that by you, a decision like that. Like I
yeah,
definitely call that bluff. So it's
Oh
kind of a
yeah.
dumpster fire there in Milwaukee right now after just winning a championship, what, 3 years ago?
yeah.
Well, and then
So
when Dame came out and did his like starting five, like his best starting five, whatever, he didn't even put
hmm.
Giannis in there. A lot of people are already like, are
Oh,
they even on good terms?
yeah.
Oh
So it's
wow,
like
you
I
did
don't
that?
know,
I love that the NBA is just like one big gossip column, man. I love
dude.
it. You never know
Just
what you're
who's
gonna
spilling the
hear.
tea?
Yeah, it really is, man. So much cheese, man, in the NBA all the time, I swear. But
Yeah,
I mean, Dame, that hasn't really panned out. I mean, they made that huge move in the offseason, which I think trading Drew Holiday benefited their rival, the Celtics, more than anybody. And I said that when they made the trade because they gave up a lot of their heart of their defense for some more offense, which you got to
Yeah,
hope that clicks. You got to hope the chemistry's there. And then the Celtics didn't really lose too much. Both those guys that they traded for for Drew Holiday, have been hurt. And so they get Drew
yeah.
Holiday a big piece on their defense. So really, they're the only ones who benefited from that trade. Lillard struggling to figure it out. I mean, won All-Star Game MVP because he took, I don't know how many shots, he's ball hogging it, but
Well, they're not playing defense, you know.
yeah.
But he took 23 threes, you know. He made
Yeah.
11 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
When the Celtics got Drew, that was kind of to your point. Yeah, that was the minute I saw. I was like, "Yep, that's what they needed. That's their push
exactly.
because he's." I mean, Marcus Smart brought great defense and stuff, but Drew, I think, is that much better, and
Yeah.
his offensive game is a lot better. He's a lot better on the catch and shoot. And I don't know. I mean, Drew played point guard in New Orleans for as long as I can remember. I think that was my biggest gripe with the Celtics was I was like, they don't really have like a true, like a point guard. You know, like Marcus is just a defensive guard. So I loved the move. Yeah, it's showing that it's benefiting them the most out of, you know, all the teams that were involved in that. So, yeah, man, it's looking good for them.
Yeah, there was a story that came out. Wick Grossbeck, the chairman for the Celtics, was talking with the chairman for Milwaukee, and after they traded Drew, and he says, "You don't think you guys are going to go after Drew, do you?" He said, "We'll probably look into it. We'll do our due diligence." Next thing you know, they got him. I mean, even I didn't think they were going to be able to get him, fit him into that cap, but hey, the owners are going for it, man. They're paying the bill. They're not paying the $400 million like the Warriors are paying for a last place team, but
and the Bucks owner hasn't talked to the Celtics owner since that conversation because he's pretty mad about it. But I knew once Drew got traded, I texted everybody right away. Once he got traded to the Trailblazers, I said, I guarantee Celtics go get him because I know Brad Stevens.
Look into it, yeah.
I knew Brad Stevens has loved him since he was in Milwaukee, since he was in New Orleans. They'd always talk trades. They just never traded Smart. That was always the deal breaker. And I knew once we had got rid of Smart, I knew right away they were going to do all that they could to get him, no matter who was gone. It was just a matter of who they were going to be trading. And they made it work. And, you know, as much as I love the Drew Holiday trade, I think the biggest piece of the offseason that I was hyped about was Porzingis.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and nobody really wanted to talk about that because, I mean, he'd been bounced around from the Knicks to the Mavericks to the Wizards, and people kind of forgot about him. But all the things that he does, the way he stretches the floor. I mean, Rob Williams, they had him as a lob threat, and he could play defense, but their offense was so congested. You know, people knew that Rob Williams wasn't going to shoot a three, so they could just cover up the paint. But Porzingis,
shoot a jump shot.
Yeah, so Porzingis being out there at the 3-point line, you know, that opens up everything for Tatum and Brown to drive, and it's just opened up everything for the Celtics. They look like a completely different team this year.
Well, people wanted to talk about him a lot, but all they wanted to say is he's always injured, you know, and can he handle a full year? Well, that's still a question mark, you know. But he's hanging in there pretty darn good so far, and they're giving him plenty of rest. So,
yeah, that was my biggest question mark with it because, well, also too, I was a little worried at first about because I feel like everybody in the East drives in the paint. You know, the Bucks got Giannis, the Sixers got Joel. I get it, he can shoot and he can stretch, but I mean, him back to the basket, that's scary. You got the Heat last year, who, I mean, just because they were they drive and kick a lot. The Knicks, I mean, even you could say that they stretch the floor too. They got Brunson, and he's a dog himself.
Brunson's a dog.
I was just worried about how their interior defense was holding up. I mean, all my questions were answered. I mean, they're making it work. So,
well, it helps. They got you still got Al Horford and come in and play the bigger centers.
I do too.
Don't worry about it, man, because he's killing it, man. He's averaging more rebounds coming off the bench than he did last couple of years starting.
Everybody says it too. I mean, and I'll count myself in that category. I was saying Al's age is going to catch up to him at some point. He's like fine wine right now. He just keeps getting better. I don't know.
Yes.
Well, they don't play him 2 games in a row, so he doesn't play back to back, so that helps him a lot.
Right, yeah.
And what I tell everybody about Al is, you know, he's kind of like, you see LeBron's doing it now as he's getting older too. It's like you don't really see much from him in the regular season, you know. And he's like really slowing it down. Doesn't look like he's really trying too hard. But come postseason, he's like a completely different guy.
Turns it on.
Exactly. And now
Playoff Al, baby.
Yeah, playoff Al. I love the guy. You know.
Well, actually, Al, what bothers me about him, he's really good in the early rounds where you get 2 or 3 days off. But then when we got into the Eastern Conference Finals and we were playing every other day, he wore out. He didn't have no jump shot. He couldn't hit a shot to save his life. I think giving him all these days off this year and coming off the bench, I think it'll help him a lot. But even playing every other day, it took its toll on him. When we were getting 3 or 4 days off, he was money, man.
Yeah, it doesn't help that they got down 3-0 to Miami Heat team that had Jimmy Butler and a bunch of scrubs, and still ended up losing that one. But you know, there they were. They put themselves in that position. But
yeah,
you know, it'll be nice though this year they have a bit more depth. You know, hopefully don't get into a position like that. I mean, Miami, same thing as every year. You know, 7 seed right now. You know, not gonna probably get into the top 3 by any means, but Jimmy Butler, come playoff time, another guy that kind of is just coasting right now, but come playoff time is just an animal. And, you know, finally people are putting respect on his name, you know, and this happens every year. Like nobody's talking about Jimmy Butler right now. Nobody's talking about him since the really beginning of the year, but come playoff time, he's going to be all over ESPN. You know, I mean, they swept the Bucks last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
As a 7 seed. Yeah. They swept the Bucks and got all the way to the finals where they eventually gassed out. But I mean, they're always a threat. You might see them as the 8 seed matched up with the Celtics for the first round. That'd be crazy first round to have.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. All right.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's Celtics here, man. They have all the pieces.
So,
I mean, they've had it for the last couple of years. It's just something goes awry for them. So I mean, it's got to be the Celtics right now.
I always say that when I die, I want the Celtics to lower my casket so they can let me down one last time. And that's just how I feel. But I hope that this year that changes, you know. Donnie White with another question says, you guys don't think that the Heat run last year was a fluke?
Heck yeah, it was.
I mean, you got Jimmy Buckets, and they proved a lot last year that they could get far with just him carrying them. But I think it's totally different this year. I mean, everyone's got a full year of seeing them. They're the same exact team. They didn't do much to help Jimmy out by getting some help. They got Terry Rozier. That was huge. But they need another star, man. They got to get Jimmy some help.
Yeah, and they lost some of their guys that were kind of doing it for him in the, you know. So, I don't know. I mean, it could be, but one thing about it is even when they're an 8 seed, you always kind of – they're a gritty basketball team. Spoelstra's a hell of a coach. They do got some dogs on that team. So it's I mean, it's playoff basketball. You know, anything can really happen. But, I mean, if they do it again – yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting that to happen, so it'd be really mind-blowing again.
Please don't.
Yep, 3 of the last 4 years, the Celtics have played the Heat with the chance to go to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And Heat have won 2 out of 3, but they beat each other up so bad that when they do get to the finals, they got nothing left. I mean, the Heat get to the finals, and they're done. They're pretty much done. They're so wore out. Then they start getting injuries in the finals, and so, yeah, they can keep away from playing each other. One of them, it might be able to win one.
Yeah, and I don't think any other sport shows as much grit as the NBA does come playoff time, you know, where grit really matters. You know, the extra hustle that you do, you know, the mentality of like kind of imposing your will. I think Miami is like, Miami epitomizes that, you know, come playoff time, they give themselves a shot just because they play with so much grit and so much toughness. You know, and led by a coach like Spoelstra, who I think has proven with the rosters he's had and going as far as he has, he's the best coach in the NBA. And so you always got a shot with him and Butler. And so, I mean, with their grit, they could definitely make a run. Win the finals? I don't think so. Not until they get Jimmy some help. So, I mean, if you're making fun runs, you know, to the finals, you know, like, that's cool and all. But if you're not getting a ring, I mean, what are you doing, you know?
Yeah.
So I definitely think they can make a run, but can't win it. And while we were talking health earlier with Porzingis and guys staying healthy come playoff time, I wanted to bring up this Clippers team who load management's always a question with Kawhi. But Kawhi is also one of those guys people forget about over time. But when he's healthy and come playoff time, man, that guy is a dog.
He's a difference maker. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's only missed 2 or 3 games this year, I think. 3 or 4 games. He hasn't missed a lot. And so that's, yeah, their team is coming on.
Dude, that Clippers team is nice.
In Oklahoma,
It's so nice.
Yeah. Oklahoma, man.
They
Yeah,
get
they got some
everybody
good teams in the West, man.
West
Well, there's
Stats.
it's
Young teams.
literally, I think it's 1 through 9 or something like that. They're, I mean, just 9 games really, all between, 1 through 9. Which I get it sounds like a lot, but NBA is a long season. The Celtics,
Yeah.
like in the East, they're putting distance between them,
Yeah.
and goes back and forth. OKC, they can go on a little run. T-Wolves dip out, they're taking it. The Nuggets are right there. The Clippers are right there. So, yeah, there's a lot of good teams in the West. But
yeah, and the Clippers, I just want to say about Kawhi, I mean, look at the years he's healthy, what his teams do. I mean, even as far as the Spurs days, they were winning those championships when they had Duncan and those guys. But even when Duncan left and they all got really old, that year where the Warriors broke the record for most wins in a season, Kawhi looked like he was taking over that series. He was going to carry the Spurs and beat the Warriors. They had no answer for him. It wasn't until he came down from that three-point shot and landed on Zaza Pachulia's foot, ended his season and his Spurs tenure, but then goes to Toronto, finally gets healthy. He's 1 year in Toronto, carries them to the finals, beats the Warriors. So it's like the guy when he's healthy is like he just carries teams, man, and he's good enough to win it. Like you see Jimmy take teams there, and not quite have enough. But Kawhi has shown that he can take teams there and he can win it. Like they forget how good this guy is.
I was gonna say, I mean, 100% Kawhi gets slept on all the time.
He didn't beat He didn't beat the Warriors though. He beat the Suns, didn't he?
No, they beat the Warriors.
Yeah, because
Toronto beat the Warriors.
Yeah, the next year the Bucks beat the Suns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's one thing that's, I mean, Kawhi's team, like right now, if he's the main point and you're worried about Kawhi, then you got to worry about James Harden, PG, and I think the bench the thing about the Clippers always is their bench is deep. They got players, so I don't know, man. They're a scary team. I get they're not the first seed, but they should be the favorites right now of the West.
Pretty close. Yeah. The only bad thing is all their top players, their top 4 players are all on AARP right now. They're all really old. We're getting pretty old.
They just need one good run, baby. They just need
one good run, but they better hope they stay healthy during that run. And none of those guys have been able to do it in the last 5 or 6 years. Can they do it this year together, collectively? Hey, that's going to be an interesting subplot for the playoffs, especially if they play a young team like Oklahoma that loves to run.
That's true.
They keep up with them.
And that's why I think Clippers and Nuggets, to me, as the 3 and the 4 seed, I think they're the favorites to come out of the West because of that experience. And even the Suns at the 5 seed, with KD and Booker. I mean, they got all that experience, and they've been there and done that before, which matters in the NBA playoffs over a long stretch. And the top 2 teams, the Thunder and the Timberwolves, they're still super young. They're rolling right now, and I think they got super bright futures. But by no means do I think those guys will make it all the way to the finals, not through all those other veteran teams.
Well, and one thing that should be noted is playoff basketball. It's half court. Like, I mean, we saw it with the Kings last year. They were fast break. They were the fastest team in the NBA last year. And they got beat out by the Warriors because they slowed it down. They tempoed their ass up,
Yeah.
So if anybody can do that, I mean, it's the Clippers, it's the Nugs, possibly even the T-Wolves because they got those 2 bigs. They can really slow down but I think the T-Wolves, I'm with you, are a little too young right now.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal in the playoffs. Everything slows down, but it all comes down to what team can force their tempo on the other team, and because a lot of teams like to run and then get in the playoffs, it's a half court game. You got to be able to play both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to get real interesting down the stretch. I mean, there's a lot of teams, especially in the West, where we don't really know who's going to come out of there. There definitely is a few teams that you can make an argument for. I think the Thunder, as young as they are, I don't think they'll win it, of course, but they got probably the brightest future in the league. I mean, you got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander out there and Chet Holmgren. That's like probably the best young duo you could really think of for their ages
Mm-hmm.
and what they can do. I mean, Holmgren might get Rookie of the Year if they don't give it to Wembanyama, who's making a pretty good argument right now. But I mean, they got a super bright future over there in OKC.
Oh yeah, and they got 7 first-round draft picks coming up too.
Their draft picks never end, man.
They just what a rebuild! What a rebuild that they did.
Oh
You
yeah.
know?
I think the only better rebuild I think we've seen in the last decade was the Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett trade that ended up turning into Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I mean, that's the only one you could really make an argument for, I feel like, because even OKC might even be above that with all the draft capital they've received.
Yeah, they got all those number ones still where they can trade for a star if they wanted to, another big star. All these guys are on their rookie contracts.
I was going to say, they're so young, dude, and they're so good right now. For them to have even more draft capital and probably cap space, that's so scary.
Yeah.
He's trying to build another OKC when they had Durant, Harden, Westbrook, all those guys. He's trying to build another one just like that. And because he did it once, he'll do it again. It all comes down to who gets greedy, who wants to be paid. You know, they don't get paid, they want to move on. That's what ruined that team.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, really. Who's willing to stay, for a lesser role, and that takes a lot of maturity. It's hard to convince young guys to do that. Celtics have been very lucky to have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum do that at a very young age, to compete for a finals championship. But we got another question right here from Hondo, the boy. Said top 5 MVP candidates coming out of All-Star break. I do want to say one guy that I do think is the best. Hondo might not like this answer right off the dome, but my favorite young player in the league that I think is finally going to get an MVP is Luka Doncic. I think he's the most talented in the league. I think it just depends on how close they finish to the top of the West. But, I mean, as far as, like, one guy to build around in the league, I don't know if there's anybody better than Luka to do it.
Well, I think it's Jokic's award to lose, as it is every year. And Giannis, he would be in it normally, but the way they're playing, Milwaukee's playing now, I think that kind of takes him out of it. But yeah, and then you got that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, GSA, man. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, SGA, that's fine.
Yeah, but he's a good little player,
Yeah,
go anywhere. And then their dark horse, Jason Tatum, say coming up, if the Celtics, the best team in the league, have the best player in the league, have the best player on their team, usually they're the ones that get the MVP, but he's coming up a little bit. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander as well. But yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd have to go Jokic, SGA. I'd go Luka, and Tatum. I know top 5. I guess I'm gonna throw in Brunson. I don't think why not? Hey, dark horse. But
major dark horse.
I mean those top four, it could go either way. I think Jokic gets it just because he does so much, dude. He's so good. And
he is.
As we see, he does not care. He does not care. But if SGA wins it, I'd love that.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see a new MVP winner. And I mean, he's proven it how good he is, man. I think this is his second straight year averaging 30, being on top of the league for points per game. And yeah, they're number 2 seed in the West. It's hard to argue that, if your team's winning. Yeah, SGA, that's a good question right there. I think, as I mentioned earlier, though, with Luka being the guy to build around, there's one guy. Let's close this out with this, before we end up going into next week. But who is one guy in the NBA you guys would want to build your team around from scratch? Pick one guy. It's Chris. Let's start with you.
One guy. It's Luka or Jokic. It's those two, just because their game. They get everybody involved. They're dogs. They can shoot any shot. They control the tempo too. I think that's another thing that gets a little underrated. People say that they like ball hog too much and stuff, but if you can slow down the game, and that's what really matters in the playoffs, that half court stuff, they're the best at it. So either of those two, I don't really care. Give me one of them, and I'd be happy.
Yeah, that's good. 2 picks right there. Pops?
Yeah, I'd probably take Doncic because he's younger. He's way younger, and he's got a long way to grow still. And yeah, you put a team around him, which Dallas has never done. Has put a good team around him, and we see what he could do. But they've never really put a good team around him, unfortunately. But Doncic would be one I'd definitely want to build around.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's one of the youngest. I think he's still only 23, I want to say, maybe 24. But I remember when he came out in the draft and playing in the professional league at the age of 16, I believe when he started, he was MVP by 17 and then declared for the draft at 18 or 19. I just knew right away. And I remember telling you this, Pops, but I said Luka is for sure the best guy in that draft. Whoever takes him would be so lucky. And whoever doesn't is going to regret it for the rest of their careers. And sure enough, they traded him for Trae Young. And I mean, the top 2
and
picks.
And the number 1 pick, they end up getting another pick out of it. But
yeah. And DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 pick of that draft for the Suns. Imagine if they would have got Luka. Could have been Luka and Booker. That would have been real nice right there. What's your guys' picks for Rookie of the Year? Hondo with another question. Chet and the Slender Man himself. Between Chet Holmgren and Wembanyama, I personally would be going with Chet. I mean, he slowed down a little bit over the last few weeks. Wembanyama is trending up. I think the NBA just is trying to give it to Wembanyama. That's who they're looking to give it to. I mean, Chet, obviously, though, I think is the dark horse coming out of this. Who you guys got?
Oh, Wembanyama, the way he's come on lately. I mean, his team's not winning, but as far as the stats and everything and some of the plays he's making, I think it's his to lose. I mean, Chet Holmgren is going to be there. There's no doubt about that. And I think it's going to be really close, but I kind of think it's going to be Wembanyama.
Yeah, I see it. Give me Victor.
You, Chris?
Yeah, give me Vic. Give me Victor. He's in a horrible spot, Spurs team kind of stinks, but it's not his fault. It's not his fault, and he's showing he is that phenom that everyone said he was. So yeah, give me Victor.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that guy. That guy's been the most high prospect.
The Slender Man.
Yeah, for the last few years, man, people have been waiting for this guy to come into the NBA. He was the most hyped prospect since LeBron in 2003. So that says a lot. And they're going to be just fine in San Antonio. I mean, Popovich was going to retire until he saw that they could draft Wembanyama.
Now he's wondering if he should have retired after all.
So I'll stick around, I guess. Donnie White, my boy, got another question. Defensive Player of the Year. Ooh, that's a tough one this year. I feel like it's up for grabs this year more than any other year.
I got my boy D. White.
D. White?
White, I think he is. I mean, he's playing better defense than Marcus Smart did back in the day, and he won it. I think D. White's got a good chance as anybody. Leads in blocks and stocks, steals and blocks, regards. He's even ahead of most big men as far as blocks percentage and everything. That's my dark horse. D. White. No, it's not Donald White.
No,
close.
D. White don't get no love, though. He never gets
no love. He's starting to get some love. I think he is getting love around the league as far as his defense.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard to deny what
I
he
think
does
it's your
for that
cousin,
team.
D. White, Donnie.
What are you saying, Chris?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, it's hard to. It's people be sleeping on him. It's harder to. Geez Louise, words are hard. It's hard to diminish what he does for that team, man. And he goes
Absolutely.
in night and night out, just dog status. And he
No,
finally got rid of that little half blowout he was rocking. He just straight
yeah. He caught a
Yeah,
lot of hate
he
for
looked
that,
finally
good
man.
just
now, dude.
gave up and cut it all.
Yeah. He got a lot of hate for that. Not my boy DY. Come on now. He's the nicest guy ever, you know, and he was just getting roasted all playoffs for his hair, man. That poor guy getting cyberbullied.
Yeah, dude, it was a tough. He had some tough angles, man.
He
Yeah, he
did,
had to
man. He
get
did.
some thick headbands just to make it work.
Yeah, dude, his thing was.
Oh man, I could see it given to. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back and give it to Gobert. He's the number one seed
Yeah,
in
I
the
was gonna
West.
say.
You know, he's been crying a lot over the last few years. I'm sure they'll give him something. Cries every time he doesn't
Yeah.
make it in the All-Star game, which he hasn't been All-Star caliber in years, but cries every year about that, and Defensive Player of the Year. You know, so I wouldn't be surprised if they threw him a bone over there. I mean,
Yeah,
they could give it to Greek Freak, but
yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah,
I'll go Rudy too. I mean, we're not gonna see another guard win it for a while. That was
yeah, it was
it's pretty
smart winning
I
it.
special.
don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty special what Smart did.
Hmm.
And it's just a big man award. I feel like
It is. It's all
so.
about blocks.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if D White wins it,
Oh,
I
that'd be
ain't gonna
so cool.
bitch. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be so cool.
I think it's gonna be Rudy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised there. I mean, we got an exciting season to tap into here as the season closes out. I mean, a lot of close teams here in the West. It's going to get interesting in the East, I feel like, to close out the second half. And come playoff time, who knows what's going to happen.
After
But,
the All-Star game is when it really gets ramped up. People start taking it more serious, you know. It's not the dog days anymore. It's
yeah.
ramping up for the playoffs. And it's going to be really interesting here.
Yeah, and that's why it's a perfect time to really jump into NBA. And
Yeah.
so, with that being said, guys, I'm looking forward to next week with you guys, and I want to thank you guys for joining me. I'll see y'all next week.